The Pirates are in their worst rut of the season, dropping 6 games this week with bullpen blowups and anemic offense abound. Welcome to the 412 Double Play Podcast. I am, as always, host Michael Castrogano. Joining me, my Double Play partner, Ed Wassel, here to mourn the loss of this season. As you guys see, the episode's title, season's over, right, Ed?
Season just begun, Mike.
When we do the pre-talk to these episodes, Ed's tone is 100% different than the tone he takes when we actually start the episode.
Negative, sir. I said there needs to be accountability. I didn't say the season was over.
It's been a rough week, though. And obviously, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to quickly pivot to the roster roundup because it just sets it up a little bit. Quick one this week. Only change, lefty relief pitcher Jose Hernandez optioned back to Indy. Third time in the past month, with Quinn Priester recalled to join the Bucs roster and obviously the rotation. Who would you rather have on the roster at any given point in time, Jose Hernandez or Quinn Priester?
I mean, we talked about it last week. We were going to be in need of a starter more than likely with Gonzalez going on the IL. So you kind of thought maybe they would just skip his turn in the rotation with days off. But I mean, I don't know. Bullpen's pretty beat up. I guess they didn't want to, beat them up any more than they had to be. But
well, also, as we'll talk about in the weekly recap, there's certain players whom they do not want to overextend with innings. So let's just jump into the elephant in the room. Weekly recap. Pirates headed to Queens, facing a red-hot Mets squad. Jumped out to a 3-0 lead in Game 1. Another strong start from Martin Perez, despite some control issues. Came up again today. We'll talk about that in a sec. Cluster of hits by the Bucs bats. That 3-0 lead early. Mets punch back. They got their own cluster of hits. We got a weird error by Connor Joe, where he kind of spiked the ball in right field, and then a bullpen blow-up by Aroldis Chapman resulted in a 6-3 loss. Chapman ejection, eventual suspension. We'll talk about that in a bit too. Jared Jones, Game 2, electric. 5 shutout innings, 1 hit ball, 7 strikeouts, 0 walks. He had 50 strikes in 59 innings, highest percentage of strikes when pitching 50 or more pitches in recorded history that they have on record by any team, which is just weird. Pirates managed a 1-0 lead off a half-swing RBI single by Brian Reynolds. Luis Ortiz pitched a clean 6th, taking over for Jones. As you noticed, 5 shutout innings, pulled after the 5th inning, all planned ahead of time. Ortiz ran into trouble in the 7th. Team ended up losing 3-1. Game 3, Pirates again, early lead. Offense stumbles, 5 hits, 1 run. Bailey Falter had a decent start, not elite. We're starting to see the cracks. Falter is not going to win the Cy Young this year. Surprise, surprise. And then the bullpen again gave up runs. Team loses 9-1. In those 3 games, the Pirates scored 3, 4, 5 runs. We talked about this before we started recording. The Mets came in with the best rotational ERA in the National League. The next team that we would face came in with the best rotational ERA in all of baseball. I kind of know what your answer is going to be, Ed, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is it good pitching beating good hitting, or is it just bad hitting?
I can tell you it's not beating good hitting.
I mean, it's definitely frustrating watching. There were some rough at-bats. Did you get to watch any of the games in the Mets series?
You and I were texting back and forth during the one game. I don't remember which one it was. So I was trying to sneak a couple innings in at work, and it was more frustrating than actually doing my job. So I had to shut it off and concentrate on work.
All right, I'm trying to do some quick math. 7, 7, 5, 17. 17 runners left on base in that 3-game series. And again, they got off to that early 3-0 lead in Game 1, and then the offense has just fallen apart since then. Going to go ahead and use that as my segue into the Red Sox series, as they came to town this past weekend. No better luck. Priester started on Friday, gave up 5 runs, 4 earned in 4.1 innings. The one unearned run was an error he made, but still becomes an unearned run. 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 3 home runs surrendered. Didn't really matter much because, again, Bucs only managed 4 hits. They scored a single run in the 9th inning as the Pirates dropped the opener 8-1. Saturday against Cutter Crawford, came in with the best ERA in, I think, at least the American League, maybe all of baseball. Team managed base runners in all but 1 inning, fumbled away opportunities repeatedly, managed to score 2 runs, lost 4-2. And then today, team managed a run after a leadoff double, first inning. Connor Joe, ground out by Reynolds, got him over to third. Sac fly by Key, small ball, 1-0 early. And then they just fell back apart. Errors in the field, misplays, catcher's interference, missed throws, poor pitching, awful hitting. And the team finishes the week back-to-back sweeps going the wrong way, losing the final game 6-1. Kutch played 1 inning in right field on Saturday night. And Chapman originally, again, that suspension, he was ejected and then suspended for something he said to the home plate ump. Originally, it was 2 games. It got knocked down to 1 game, and he served the suspension on Friday. So I'm actually going to start with that because we don't know what Chapman said to the ump. This is kind of an obvious answer here, but do the umps have too much power in baseball?
Absolutely. And if you go back and watch, it's not as if, at least from the vantage point that I saw, that he was saying something directly to him. He didn't like get in his face and was try to, I don't know how you'd word it, make him look bad, even though sometimes they deserve it because they are pretty bad.
His grievance wasn't blatant. He held his glove up and looked like he was just coming to have a conversation with Davis. And then he just gets tossed. And everyone's confused. And I think I saw like MLB or like somebody posted about it. It may have been like an ESPN reporter or something. And we just never got clarification as to what happened. Why that ump who wasn't calling it, like we had some rough games with the umps. Today's game, for some reason, went the other way, and I feel like we got more favorable calls than the Red Sox did. But like in New York, there were some rough calls, and Shelty ended up getting ejected in the 1 game. Oh no, Shelty got ejected in the game on Saturday, right? He got ejected last night.
I believe so.
Really late in the game, and unfortunately, the team did nothing to try to come back on that. And then Kutch playing 1 inning in right field. The ball was not hit to him. I don't think. He came in as a pinch hitter, and then stayed on his DH or something, or like was DH, and then it came in and stayed in the game. Let me go back and see if I can find that. But do you expect that he's going to? Yeah, pinch hit for Tellez, and then went to right field. Do you think that we will see Kutch in the outfield? Some. I'd say more, but like any is more.
Right. I don't expect to see much of it. Maybe in situations like this where he's just pinch hitting and playing an inning or 2 out there.
You just need to move guys around because
Yeah.
Olivares was the DH. Reynolds was out there. Sawinski was pinch hit for already. So yeah, you're kind of out of. Taylor's in center field. You've got everybody used at that point. So yeah,
and I'm pretty sure there's a rule where, say we'll just use Olivares as an example. If he starts at DH, if you then move him to like right field, your pitchers now have to hit. There's no longer a DH.
Yes, you could sub for the DH, which happened during the game today because Heineman was subbed out for McGuire, and it was just like the former Pirates catchers coming back to haunt us because McGuire immediately hit like an RBI, like 2-run double or something. I was like, yeah, everything is awesome right now. So, but talking about the Red Sox series, and again, as I mentioned, Red Sox came in with a 1.78 rotational ERA, best in baseball by a lot. Cutter Crawford, the pitcher today was Winkowski. He's not anything special, but first game was Brian Bayo. Like they're not slouches. Yes, we should have gotten runs today. They basically did a bullpen game. We got 1 run, and that's frustrating to get 4 runs in a 3-game series when we did have a strong offense heading into this week. That was kind of one of the things we talked about 2 weeks ago, that through a couple weeks ago, that the offense will pick up when pitching struggles. But the pitching was a strength. Pitching wasn't a strength. Offense wasn't a strength. What is the immediate fix in your mind?
I don't know if there is an immediate fix. I mean, I'd like Haynes to be gone, but we wanted Haynes to be gone last year, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're comparing apples to oranges when you talk about how guys are doing in AAA. They were, you had, I can't remember who it was last year. They go down AAA, they'd be hitting like 430, and I
Sure.
know it's not the same level of competition, but it's like they get called up and they just completely disappear off the face of the earth. And I feel like I don't know if Haynes is too involved, not involved enough. I'm assuming too involved because every batter does the same thing. They stand there and just watch strikes go right by him. They don't protect the
Yeah.
plate. The only player I've seen that protects the plate is Triolo, and that's
Yeah. So
frustrating.
currently in the National League, I'm just going to rank them against National League because I feel like that's probably the most effective way to do it. We are 8th in on base percentage, 11th in batting average, 13th in slugging and on OPS, on base plus slugging. We have a team 682 OPS, which is just fractionally behind the Colorado Rockies. The only teams behind us are the Marlins, which we're not worse than them. That's great. And the Cardinals, who have admittedly had a down season. So that's frustrating because definitely we're doing better than that coming into this past week. But was there anything you saw this week that you felt was a positive? I'm
Man, what?
pressing here. I'm just anything.
I mean, Jones was positive.
Jones was so good. Man, he was so good.
Other than that, I
And
don't
I
think
was
you can say there's any positives this week.
And here's the thing. That was going to be my special. After he got pulled after the game because I knew the bullpen was going to blow it. I started feverishly doing a story for Steel City because I don't write there enough, and Gary definitely carries the load there, and I appreciate it because he writes like 2-3 stories a day sometimes. But I'm just like feverishly typing up why they shouldn't have pulled Jared Jones and how they're being ridiculous and they need to give more weight because 59 pitches through 5 innings doesn't count the same as 80 or 90 pitches in 5 innings, which is what his mound opponent had. I think it was Severino at the time. It doesn't weigh the same. And I didn't go through the story because I was like, it's just a knee jerk reaction. Jones was okay with it after the game. Charrington talked today in his weekly radio interview on 93.7 about like this was all part of the plan. The staff, the coaching, they all discussed and said, hey, we're going to monitor his innings. It was his first time pitching on only 4 days rest because they didn't have an off day over that period of time. So they didn't want to push it. They were in a good position. They felt that they could win with the bullpen. They were wrong, but
Yeah, that's
needless to say,
a piss poor excuse.
Sir.
They
Sir,
screwed up.
how? I mean, yeah, they lost the game, but they're, as Charrington said in his interview today, we're looking to win the battles and the war. Let me see if I can find the exact quote on that. Win the smaller daily battles, but also win the war. Because it is a big war. We're trying to make decisions to do both, win the games and be competitive late in the season, not have to shut Jones down when they get into August and September. You look at this as like a potential Strasburg situation, and we're seeing it with Skeens. And obviously, we're going to talk about the farm system in a second, but they are very much limiting the buildup because they want those innings for a potential postseason run. And I know they're losing games now, and that's decreasing the chance they're going to have a postseason run. But if they do, you're going to want Skeens and Jones available.
Yeah, but Jones is already stretched out. He's not.
Jones is stretched out, but do you want him to be pitching all of his innings in April and May, or do you want him to be pitching
Listen,
innings
there's
in
zero reason
October?
he cannot pitch all season long. This inning count crap. Skeens, I understand to an extent. He just got drafted last year. They're only pitching once a week in college. Granted, he's throwing 130 pitches every game when he's in college, so it's not like he's, now if you're throwing
Ooh,
88 pitches, 90 pitches, it's you had a tough game.
I got to look that up. I don't know how many pitches he threw every start because
I feel like he threw 100 plus every single start.
I think you're right, and they are trying to be a little bit more cautious with him. Jones, he threw how much was it? 122.2 in 2022. And then last year, he only went up to 126.1. Mike, I'm just confused how that happened, how he didn't ramp up more and then have a higher floor to jump off of for this season.
Yeah, I don't know. Did he get hurt at some point last year, miss some games?
Maybe. I'd have to go back and look. But
I don't know.
yeah.
That's one thing that bothers me about baseball now. And you always make fun of me that I'm old, even though I'm not. But I missed seeing starting pitchers go, 100 plus pitches if they're being effective. There's far less injuries when they actually did it because they built their strength up and continually did it.
Well, I'm just gonna like play "Go the Distance" by Michael Bolton in this part. The recording. I'm not. I don't have the energy for that editing. But the injury issues come from, I mean, yes, the velocity. A lot that they're throwing harder. The average velocity per pitch has steadily risen. And I think it's reached like 95, 96 across baseball. Like the average pitcher in baseball, average fastball is 95 plus. 20 years ago, it was like 91, 92. Like if you threw mid 90s, you were in the top 5% of starting pitchers. Like relievers didn't throw that. Billy Wagner, Mariano Rivera, they weren't blowing you away with velocity.
No, but Rivera had an untouchable cutter.
Right. He didn't need to.
Right. That's fine if you have those pitches. People don't have those pitches
Wagner,
anymore.
I think, was a slider. But anyway, it's the velocity, and then it's the mix of the other stuff. Like the sweeper
but also,
is
if
just
you go back
killing
further,
arms.
if you go back further, like Bob Gibson, he threw gas. There's plenty of pitchers, from the past that did throw 98, 99 that didn't get hurt. I don't think it's the velocity that gets these guys hurt. I think it's the breaking balls.
I mean, it is at least part, or maybe even mostly, the breaking balls. But there are some guys who, like Sandy Koufax, if Tommy John surgery existed back then, Sandy Koufax would have had a longer career. Because that's probably what happened to him, right? As one example. All right.
Right. I'm sure there are examples of it out there, but Randy Johnson.
Our quality content.
Yes.
Randy
Johnson, another one.
Yeah.
Huge career. Blew the ball by you. Was never afraid to keep going.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's microplastics or something. Who knows? Anyway, let's move to next segment, Down on the Farm. teams got to play more games. We had weather issues last week. This week, only one game I think got rained out. Indianapolis Indians at home against the St. Paul Saints. They won 4 of 6. Paul Skeens, we mentioned it before, he continues to be the biggest story there. 3.1 innings in his most recent start. He's up to 65 pitches, 1 hit, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. Obviously, those strikeouts are going to cause that higher pitch count, but they're good. Like I said, they're building him up slowly. He's going to get there. Number of hitters are also doing well. Nick Gonzalez slugged 700. I think he led the team in batting average and on base percentage. His OPS was like 1,200. It's crazy. 4 of his 12 hits were for extra bases, and most of the Indianapolis lineup batted above 300 last week. Stark contrast to the major league counterparts. Real
Wow,
fun.
who would have thought?
And the Indianapolis Indians are now 11-10 on the season thus far. Altoona Curve at Bowie Bay Sox. They lost 5 of 6. Curve and Pichardo led the offense with an 833 OPS. Went 6 for 17 on the week. The Curve dropped to 5-9. Greensboro hosting the Hickory Crawdads. They won 3 of 5. Termar Johnson got off to a bit of a slow start. He's finding his groove. 357, 565, 571 triple slash, 6.6 walk to strikeout rate, 5 runs, 5 RBIs. Seems like he's seeing the ball better. You're hoping that he's going to get an early promotion to Altoona and see what he can do there, because it didn't feel like there was much left to prove at Greensboro. Now he's hitting for average. That's really it. That's all you want to see. Grasshoppers moved to 9-5 on the young season. And finally, Bradenton, they lost 4 of 6. They're just having a rough start to the season. Michael Kennedy did have a 5-inning start, 2 hits, 1 run, no walks, 8 strikeouts. Early looks on him are good. I'm really excited for him. 19, 20 years old. He was in my top 30 prospects episode. One of them, I think he was like in the 11 to 20. He's someone that just gets overlooked. Really exciting stuff. Unfortunately, Bradenton falls to 3-12 on the season. Ed, which team is most exciting? I feel like pretty obviously it's not Bradenton, but there are certainly some players there who are interesting at least. Juan Yera's had a pretty good week. He had the walk-off hit in their game, I think yesterday or maybe today. Oh, Greensboro had the game that was rained out. So anyway, yeah, Juan Yera's had the walk-off and extra innings. Greensboro obviously has Termar Johnson. Altoona's got a number of fun pitchers. And then Indianapolis has like a bunch of the hitters who were kind of just waiting to come up. And then Paul Skeens.
Yeah. If you take Skeens out of the equation, Altoona has the most exciting pitching staff. And then Indianapolis would be, your batters that you're most excited about. Not most of which, but a good number have already seen some time in the major leagues.
There's been a number of people online clamoring for Nick Gonzalez or Leo Verguero to get called up to the majors. My only question is, who do you send down? If you call up a middle infielder, Jared Triolo, he hasn't been doing great offensively, but he made a really nice defensive play. He is, at times, he looks really good in the like at the plate. It doesn't always show up. Sometimes he gets a little bit too aggressive. But like if you were to call up Nick Gonzalez, Leo Verguero, the expectation is that they're going to play regularly. So it's like who do they replace on the roster?
The only semi-logical player I can think would be maybe Tellez. Because then you can either
I don't
have
think you know what
Triolo.
logical means.
You can either have Triolo or Joe playing first. Well, you're not
Okay.
Cruz, as much as he's struggling, isn't going anywhere because the team doesn't actually send players down that can probably use it. We saw it with Swinsky. Swinsky goes on a month stretch where he can't touch the ball. They're like, we're just going to let him work it out here. And you have other players that were called up that have like 2 bad games, and they're like, yeah, we're going to send them down so they can work on some stuff.
You're not wrong.
They're really weird when it comes to certain players. I don't understand it. So to me, Triolo's the only option that can give Key a break at third base when he needs a day off.
Yeah.
We
I mean,
have
if they called up Nick Gonzalez, he can also play third base
not
and
to the
shortstop and second, but
not at the level that Triolo does. Triolo's much better
yeah, that's
defensively
true.
at second and third, and could probably be decent at short in spurts.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, you're not wrong.
Alik is the only other defensive option for shortstop.
But also, Alika is a part-time player, and he's hitting. He's one of the only ones who's hitting.
Yeah, yes, he actually was making really good contact. So that's why I said for me, logically, it would be Telez, only because we do have other players that can fill in at first, and that can give you the spot for, say, Peggy or Gonzalez to play second base fairly regularly.
I expect they're going to figure out a way to get them up. Yeah, Alika Williams is a WRC plus of 161. He's batting 348, 400, 565 as a part-time player, which is like if that's his niche, then perfect. I kind of feel like Triolo might be in that kind of range. So right now he's batting like 222, but the defense is invaluable, and sometimes he does look really good.
Yeah.
All right, well
What would your player be?
I don't disagree that Cruz maybe needs like to go down to Indianapolis and just crush minor league pitching. Give him a week to just like go off on these quad A guys who are just there to prove they can beat him. And he's like, you can't. I'm too good. Because
The thing I noticed with Cruz, if you throw him low and away, he has a really hard time making any contact at all.
he's just getting fooled on pitches. And I am not a professional baseball player. If I were at the plate, I would swing and miss 100% of the time. I don't know how they say, oh, yeah, you can tell this with the spin of the ball and how it comes out. And you see with Cutter Crawford, he hides the ball behind his ear before he throws it. And that creates this confusion. I'm like, it doesn't matter. He could be throwing it like softball, but if it's coming at the speed that it is with the spin that it is, I have 0% chance of maybe even making contact with it.
Yeah, you've like
You
point
give
0.3
me
seconds to decide what pitch is coming.
so you have to figure out the location and timing and like if it's going to be in the zone, if it's going to be something that's worth swinging at if you're less than 2 strikes. No. That's and Cruz, he looked really unsure at the plate. He had a game, I think it was the last game of the Mets series, where he had 2 hits and was starting to look like a little bit more comfortable. And day off went right back to looking very unsure at the plate. And you saw some of those frustrations boil over today. Or maybe it was yesterday when Rowdy Tellez broke his bat. Kutch got frustrated and threw his bat or his helmet in the clubhouse. Like these guys get it. They know they have these higher expectations of themselves. I'm actually going to use this to segue into the special this week because the special is the name of the show, name of the episode, Skies Have Fallen. Because this hasn't been a good week by nearly every single metric, pitching, hitting, fielding, they're just all bad. Errors all over the place. Bullpen can't hold leads. Pitching, we just talked about them last week, how they're not walking anybody. Now Martin Perez is walking like 4 guys a start. Quinn Priester comes up and you think maybe he's going to have improved. And he's just wore one on Friday. It's been a tough week. I get it. I watch the games. I don't catch all of them because I've got a 4-year-old son who I don't get to see a lot during the day. So in the evening when I get to, I'd like to spend some time with him. I was wearing one of my Pirates hats and Pirates hoodies today, out for ice cream with my son Sawyer. And as we were leaving, a gentleman approached me, wearing a Steelers hat himself, asked if I was from Pittsburgh. I'm not, but I mentioned, I'm just a big Pirates fan, really hoping that we turn things around this season. And he said, the same thing Ed said before we started this call, or maybe during the call, I don't remember now, is that this season is just like last year. I really don't want it to be. And I really don't think it is. There's a story that I read to my son at bedtime sometimes called Henny Penny, and it's about all these farm animals who slowly start convincing each other that the sky is falling because an acorn fell out of a tree and hit Henny Penny, this chicken, in the head. So they need to go tell the king that the sky is falling. They get all riled up. They're all joining together. Go tell the king of this impending catastrophe. And that's what pirate social media is like after a week like this. Fans convincing themselves and others that this is the end. And yes, it has been a horrendous performance by the team across the board. But believe it or not, the sky's not falling. Teams lose games, and sometimes they lose them in bunches. It's the worst losing streak we've had since June of last year when we lost 10 in a row. And if we get to that point, then yes, this is maybe heading down the wrong road. But even when the games become that difficult to watch, even when we lose in these bunches, there's still games ahead. The sky's not falling. We play on. Ed, I know you have your frustrations with Haynes. You have your frustrations with Shelton. Possibly after this week,
Rebello.
also with Rubello and whatever was going on at first base because Sawinski and Key both got thrown out trying to stretch a single into a double when the ball was in the infield. What do you make of this past week?
Yeah. I don't know. It's so frustrating. You want to say you have to be like a pitcher that just gave up a home run or a quarterback that just threw an interception and forget about it. Looking back at it isn't going to do anything for you. You just got to move on.
Yeah. I mean, as friend of the show, still cool to say that. Clint Hurdle, former skipper for the Pirates, used to say, you just go, shower it off, and look to the next game. And I really hope this team does that because we don't have an easy week coming up. We clearly missed on our picks last week by a lot, but I have to feel optimistic. You can't lose every game. Losing's contagious. Winning can be contagious too. Hopefully we get back on the right kind of contagious because we've got a 4-game set at home against division leading rival Milwaukee Brewers before heading across the country for a weekend set against the Giants in San Francisco. As of right now, and this is not set because the Brewers had an injury to their rotation. DL Hall, acquired in the offseason trade with the Orioles involving Corbin Burns, was placed on the 10-day, 15-day injured list. Not exactly sure. And so he was scheduled for this Thursday. As of right now, it looks like it'll be Joe Ross facing Jared Jones on Monday. Southpaw Wade Miley versus Bailey Falter on Tuesday. Freddie Peralta on Wednesday against Quinn Priester. You know how I'm going to pick for that game. And then Bryce Wilson will potentially be replacing Hall in the rotation and facing Mitch Keller on Thursday. Ed, the Brewers are 14-6. They just swept the Cardinals this past weekend. They are on a 4-game winning streak. We're on a 6-game losing streak. Obviously, the luck's going to go the other way, right? What are your picks for this series?
Well, obviously I was, a little overzealous last week with predictions. So I'm going to
Maybe
go
it's
the
your fault.
opposite. I'm going to go the opposite way this week.
Okay. I don't need you to go that far in the other direction. This is an overcorrection here.
No,
If that's where you're going to go,
I'm going to say they probably split against Milwaukee.
I think we'd be really happy if we split. Ross versus Jones is a pretty okay matchup because I don't. I mean, again, if this stays the same way, 14-6 Brewers. Joe Ross currently 4.91 ERA, 1.64 WHIP, and 14.2 innings. Jones has a 3.13 ERA and a 0.78 WHIP in 23 innings. So yeah, honestly, I'm saying 2-2, and I think our best chances Monday today, as you guys are listening to this, against Ross, and Thursday against potentially Wilson, and would be fine if they can manage that. And then we head cross country facing the Giants. Got Martin Perez in game 1 against projected starter Kyle Harrison, lefty. I think he's lost his prospect status, but he's a rookie this year. And then we got Jared Jones going in game 2 against former Cardinals closer turned starting pitcher who has been great, Jordan Hicks. And finally, Bailey Falter on Sunday against right-handed pitcher Keaton Wynn. Any thoughts on that upcoming series?
Thankful we don't have to face Snell.
Snell's off to a bad start.
I don't care. He's still Snell.
He's still Snell. Hicks is the real problem. 28 innings, 1.61 ERA. Like,
that's pretty good.
He went out to San Francisco and he was like, "Oh, this is much easier. This is a much bigger ballpark."
Unless you hit it the right field, then it's not.
Well, guess he doesn't have that issue so far.
Let's say that the Pirates win 2 of those games.
You're saying 2-1?
2-1.
I'm saying 1-2. The Giants haven't been the best team in baseball. Right now they're 10-13. But I think Hicks is going to be Hicks matching up with Jones. I think is maybe best case scenario there. But Harrison and I think Wynn is also a rookie. So I don't love. I don't love having to face them again. Under 500 team, underperforming. I'm just gonna go 1-2, and I hope I'm wrong. And I hope we win at least one game. And I'm wrong. Don't make me as wrong as I've been this past week. Oh man. Any final thoughts on the Pirates and whether or not the skies are falling?
I think we covered just about everything. Obviously, sky's not falling. And just to go back, you said, either during this call or right before, I had mentioned that it was the same as last year. And what I had said was a lot of people are saying the sky is falling because it's so similar to the way last year went with the hot start and then, the breakdown of the team. So
right, but we got to 20 wins before we started falling apart last year, so joke's on them. We only got to 10 this time. 12? What are we at? 11? Joke's on them.
So, sky's not falling. Long season. I do think changes need to be made. Made that pretty apparent. But until I see someone take some accountability and maybe get sent somewhere far, far away to never be seen in Pittsburgh again, I might not be a very happy camper.
Interesting. We'll talk about that more next week, but that wraps it up for all of us here at the 412 Double Play Podcast. Follow me on X at 412 Double Play. Follow Ed at Ed_Wassel. Continue listening to the show. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever else podcasts are found. Subscribe so you get notified when we drop our new episodes. Check out the articles at steelcity.com. Links in the description. As I said, Gary Morgan, he drops a whole bunch of stuff. I'll be talking with Gary this week. And Jim Stam on Pirates Fan Forum. Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll post about that too. I'm sure they'll post about it. Don't know what we're going to talk about. Hopefully how we had a great series against the Brewers. As always, thank you for checking out the show from all of us here at the 412 Double Play Podcast. Thank you for joining us this week, and let's go Bucs.
Let's go Bucs.
Take it away, Sawyer.
Lady Jolly Roger, dude.
Thank you.